Hey guys, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools and DIY channel. Hope everybody's doing fine on another Tuesday. Time is flying, like I always say, and before you know it, it's going to be 2027, right? So the important thing is to have something that you're working towards, and that's why I titled this. The goal is to teach 1 million kids so they can build their future, guys, because that's what I'm all about, right? I'm all about building, all about learning a trade, all about learning how to use tools, guys. And this is a very important goal for me. And I had to set a goal to kind of steer uh, this channel, right, in a certain direction, not just about tutorials, but having a bigger impact on the community. I'm very community driven. I've done a lot of community work in the past, and I'm not so much involved now, but this is, to me, this is a form of community, uh, development, I should say, or workforce development, because I want to produce I want this channel to help produce the future tradespeople of the world, especially coming out of marginalized communities. And I always, talk about marginalized communities because if you're a doctor, right, you're not just going to go look at someone's body and say, okay, you're going to go to where the problem is on that person's body, right? So that's what I tend to do. That's how I look at life. Go directly where the problem is, and what I'm saying, don't be jumping all over the place, and that's what I'm about. So that's why I talk a lot about my community and African American communities and other communities as well that need this kind of help and encouragement. All right. So yeah, that's the goal, guys. Teach 1 million kids so they can learn how to build a future, guys. Why is that important? Why is that important to me? Well, let's dive into it. Did you know, guys, that most young adults today, I'm not saying all of them, I said most, they don't even know how to use tools. Why is that, guys? And I've discussed that many times on this channel, right? This is very well documented, but nobody seems to care, in my opinion, right? Except, guys like me and maybe a few others that run programs out here in the world. And I give them all the kudos in the world. If you got a program where you're teaching kids how to use tools, how to learn a trade, all the basic skills, man, in my opinion, you're more important than that politician just out there trying to get votes, right? You're the person that's building the future in the form of skilled kids. And you should start them off young, in my opinion, okay? All right, so that college for everyone whole psychology that came back, that started in the 80s when they were pushing our kids, right, to a 4-year college degree towards that. That was the death knell, I should say, to vocational classes, home ec, shop classes. What I'm saying, they used to have that, right? But they were cut, right, systematically cut in middle schools and high schools. If you recall, I remember when I was coming up, they had that stuff. They had wood shop and all that. I enjoyed all that stuff, to be honest with you. Maybe that's the reason, one of the reasons why I got this channel, right? It's kind of harkening back to my younger years, right? And other things have to do with that as well. But anyway, so the message that they sent to all of us back then was, hey, if you work with your hands, you're going to be on the lower end of the socioeconomic ladder. And what does that mean? That means you're not going to be as respected. You need to get into the books, right? You need to get into, go for that college degree. So learning practical skills was kind of weeded out of the psychology of everybody back then, including, the kids, of course, right? But everybody back then. So, what they developed, or we developed, a sort of a negative outlook on the trades, right? There was a stigma that fell upon this society about that. And the impacts, I should say, was, just look at now. You got a skilled trade shortage, and, the schools stopped teaching it. There's other factors as well. The living spaces, they became smaller. Okay, so you have, as I was doing the research on this, it says multi-generational households where grandparents and parents pass down practical knowledge. That became less common. I know in my community, versus say other communities where the multi-generational model in one household is more common. You see the skills bear out in their kids, right? So, but in the African-American household where that multi-generational model is not as, it was kind of broken, right, through various factors. Now those skills aren't passed down as readily as, say, in other cultures that were kept more intact. It's a lot of immigrant cultures as well. You see that, right? So if you're a kid growing up in a household with your parents, your grandparents, and maybe in some cases your great grandparents, you have a wealth of knowledge and experience to learn from, right, in that one household, right? And I know there's a lot of jokes made about immigrants and them living like that all up under one roof. But I think that's a very misplaced type of humor, because the kids coming out of that kind of household, they're probably a lot more well-rounded, have a lot more support when it comes to going out there and facing life than, say, someone coming from a single parent household, and that's it, right? So, sometimes I think our humor is very misplaced and ignorant, in my opinion, right? So, and then you look and you see these individuals passing you up in life because they had all this in their house. They knew how to save money. They knew how to live below their means because they weren't making much in the first place, right? But all that whole time that they were living like that, they were saving money and helping each generation maybe purchase a house or purchase property, and then they would continue that process, and then that community ends up surpassing your community because you didn't have those types of values. Not that you didn't want them or that you were against that, but they were stripped from you. They were broken because of other external factors that helped to destroy that family structure and destroy your community. So, but anyway, that's a whole other ball game there. So smaller living spaces and different family structures, that doesn't exist as much, except, like I said, in certain immigrant communities. And that's what, caused the lack of knowledge to be passed down as far as skilled trades and so forth. And then everything kind of became disposable as well, right? So it says manufacturing shifted so dramatically that it often costs more to repair something than to replace it, right? Okay, we see that right now. They don't build stuff like they used to build them. They don't build stuff to last. I mean, so it's cheaper, like they're saying, to just buy a new one versus repair something. And so those skills of learning how to fix things so they can last forever, learning how to maintain things, take care of things, that mentality has been kind of stepped on because of the disposable society today. Everything is microwavable, right? And so young people, they don't know how to fix things, right? They got to take it somewhere and get it fixed. Nobody's teaching them how to fix things. And even a lot of us adults, that we suffer from the same malady of not knowing how to, we got to run to the repairman or call somebody to come and do it themselves, or come and do it for us, I should say. And so once again, that was another nail in the coffin of, our kids and these previous generations losing the lost art of learning how to fix things, repair things, and even building businesses around that, right? So once again, you see certain immigrant cultures, and I say the word immigrant loosely because I know that's a very sensitive word today, but you see other cultures that are not cultures that are marginalized, not considered the mainstream. Okay, and I'm dancing around words, but you guys know what I mean. They have these skills, right? Because if you're marginalized, you're going to be forced to be more self-sufficient, right? And you're probably going to have skills that relate more to what they call the lower level jobs, more labor intensive jobs that require using your hands and stuff like that. I don't necessarily want to say that they're lower, but on the hierarchy and the socioeconomic perspective, that's what they are, right? So if you're a corporate person, you're not using your hands, you're sitting at a desk typing on a computer or out, having meetings and stuff like that. And the way society is structured is that when you're up there, you get paid more. So when you're down there working with your hands and all that, you may get, if you know what you're doing, you can build a business around that, or even get paid handsomely if you're in a trade for a long enough time. Say, let's just say you're in a union or something like that. So a lot of these, like I said, immigrant families with quote marks around it, they were forced to be in that lower rung. So they developed those skills, and that's how they maintain their own, sub economy within the larger economy. You understand what I'm saying? So, but once again, that was eroded when this stuff was taken out of school. So the mainstream lost. They lost out because the opportunities were taken away from them. Vocational schools shut down. Like I said, shop classes, home ec classes. Young girls don't even know how to sew. Right? They're too busy on the internet, half naked on the internet. Right? Talking a bunch of foolishness. When back then, young girls knew how to sew. They were taught how to sew in home ec classes. They were taught how to cook and all that, all the stereotypical, dare I say, from a chauvinistic perspective. And I don't want to sound chauvinistic, but this is what young ladies were taught back in the day: basic home skills, to how to run a home, right? All that was taken away, right? So I guess maybe in some. It exists in some area that I don't know of yet of the educational system. I'm sure they still have these classes somewhere, but I'm talking about on a mainstream level. These things are no longer there. Okay. Screens replaced hands on time, says. All right. So now I was just talking to somebody today about this, that this right here has taken over, right? Like even the laptops, whatever, computers, that's where all the eyeballs are, right? So I'm talking not just kids, but everybody's focused on just looking at a screen, right? So they're not doing anything with your hands. If you're looking at a screen, you're not going to do anything with this, right? So I think I saw somewhere recently that says that most people spend 6 hours scrolling on their device. And that adds up to what, 5 years over time or something like that. Yeah, we spend an immense amount of time, and I'm guilty of it as well. Technology is a very amazing feat, right? These little devices right here, but there's a dark side to everything, right? So this can distract you. This can, I don't know, it could just eat up your time when you look at it. And unfortunately, with the short attention spans of kids today, they're not even willing to sit for an hour to learn about something, right? So everything, like I said, is microwavable, and it affects all ages. I mean, I've seen all ages. I'm talking about 60, 70, 80-year-olds, eyes glued to their phones or whatever, so it's, it affects all of us. So, okay, mentorship has gone away as well, right? I'm sure there are a lot of mentors out there, but not like it was back in the days, right? Apprenticeships and all that. It says community spaces where older tradespeople naturally pass knowledge to younger people, garages, workshops, community centers, all that stuff became, I wouldn't say obsolete, but less common, okay? So that informal membership type of pipeline, that used to exist, but you have to really search that out now. Like back in the day, you can go to your next door neighbor who was probably could have been a doctor, but they knew they could still work with their hands. My father was an accountant, right? But he could still work with his hands. He built a lot of structures as well. Okay, very handy, and that's one of the things I respected about him. Okay, so that versatility in a man today is very rare, right? So everybody's all about going to hang out in Dubai, and from what I heard, Dubai is not doing too well right now, right? I heard they're getting bombed. So, but that's a whole nother topic. But you'd be surprised how global conflicts, like what's going on right now out there, affect what I'm talking about today and how it all ties in together. Maybe we'll touch on that a little later in the live. Okay. All right. So my goal, guys, once again, like I said in the title there, and is to teach 1 million kids. And I'm going to focus on marginalized kids in marginalized communities because they need it the most. You know, teach them how to use tools, get them started, get their minds trained to, and it's not just about them swinging a hammer. It's about teaching them about the opportunities that exist for them, okay, in the trades, right? With knowing how to use tools, starting off right there. But if you want to build a future, right, like I do, of a nation of kids, right, who are able to build their own community from the ground up, that's where it starts. Now they have trade schools out here in my city that are already doing this. But hey, look, I want to do it in myself, right? So I want to help with that goal because with the few trade schools they have out here, it's, you know, they're not going to get everybody. So why not jump in myself and help with that goal, guys? So by the way, guys, this channel, this live and channel is sponsored by our flagship product here, the Exactech picture hanging tool. I want you guys to go grab this. This helps support the channel and what I do very, very much, right? Immensely. Okay. So this is our flagship product. I don't ask for donations or anything like that. I like to give you guys something for your, you know, for your money, and I appreciate you. But if you want to support this, go grab this. If you're having picture hanging hassles, go check out my last video on this. Okay. It'll show you how it works and everything. Okay. So go grab it if you want to support the channel. This is our flagship product. And, you know, I went through a lot with this. And I'm going to do sometime in the near future, I'm going to do a mini class on getting a product that you invented. All right. If you have any ideas, right, that you invented from your mind to the market, right? So all the steps in between, from intellectual property, from actually dealing with manufacturers, okay, what to look out for, and dealing with product development people that's going to help you basically streamline your product, whatever that is. And yeah, it's very interesting. So I, went through all of that. This product's so good that people decided to make copies of it, and it's flying all over the internet. And that's how good it is. But it's still out here. You know, this is the #1 picture hanging tool right here, guys. So go ahead and check that out. The links you can find it on the banner that's going across the screen right there, among other things. Okay. All right. So, all right, guys. So the good news, though, there is a resurgence happening, and I'm glad to be a part of that. Okay, with this channel. Okay, so YouTube and online tutorials have made self-teaching practical skills more accessible than ever. Okay, and that's why I chose to get on YouTube. Okay, as one of the platforms, because guys, if you have a business or your skill or anything like that, and you're waffling, about whether should you get in front of a camera or not, guys, just go ahead and do it. It's not gonna hurt, right? Don't worry about it. Do it. It's gonna be one of the best things you can do. Because think about it, guys. If you're trying to reach people, even if you're a business, why would you not get on a platform and talk about what you do? Why would you not toot your own horn, all right, and tell the world what you do? Because you can reach millions of people, guys. I've reached millions of people with this channel, okay? And whereas I probably wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. So get up, go ahead and do it, okay? That's my advice to you on that, okay? So with these platforms, I can reach 1 million kids. I can reach 1 million young adults over a span of time. All right. I can send them courses. They can watch my videos. They can learn stuff. Right. So I'm sure, I've reached, like I said, millions of people already that have learned how to use this, how to use that. And I'm not the only one doing this. There were a lot of people doing this long before I even came on these platforms. But like I was telling someone last week, nothing's saturated. You know why nothing's saturated? Because, some people say, oh, well, it's too saturated. No, it's not, because you're not there, right? People haven't experienced your unique talents, your unique personality, right? So that can never be saturated. So all you got to do is put step into the program, step into the ring, right? And give people a dose of your specialness, okay, your uniqueness. And I guarantee you, somebody's gonna like you, especially if you're bringing value to it. A lot of people on these platforms, they're not really bringing any intrinsic value other than entertainment, and look at where they are, right? But if you're bringing something of value, or educational content or something like that, no, you may not get as many views, but what you are getting is the reward of that. You're moving the world forward in your own way, right? Now, isn't that in itself is a reward, right? For you, right? That that you've put something out there that's actually helping somebody, okay? And that's the important part of it, okay? All right. Now, let's talk about the social aspects, guys, of why I want to teach 1 million kids how to use tools, right? Teach 1 million kids about the trades, okay? Why I'm so focused on this is my goal, guys, okay? One of my goals, okay? Okay, so one of the main reasons, guys, is that it attacks poverty, right? Yeah, we complain about poverty and all of this and that, but what are we actually doing about it? If we're going to work at a 9 to 5, okay, and we're feeding, we're maybe just barely feeding ourselves, let alone a family, and we complain about poverty. I mean, what? There's only so many people actually doing something about it. I don't want to be that person not doing anything about it, right? I want to do something about it in my own way. And okay, number one, the goal of teaching 1 million kids how to use tools is that it provides, let's see here. It gives them a skill, okay, that nobody can take away from them, right? You teach a man how to fish, and you won't have to teach him again, versus having to feed him fish all the time. This society here, when they took the trades out of schools, right? They took all the shop class and everything out of schools. They basically took away that opportunity to teach a man how to fish, right? And before anybody goes to pursue any form of higher education, they should at least know the basics, right? How the infrastructure works, how it's built, how they can sustain their own personal economies, within their own families, right? If they want to raise a family or a functioning community, right? All that was taken away. I think when you dive deeper, and when they took this stuff away, they basically made they created a class of individuals who they knew that half of them wouldn't even be able to go to college, right? So they had a plan, right, to create an underclass that had no skills and that were going to be forced to work some of the most menial types of jobs and maintain their economy. Because when you teach somebody how to fish, then what happens is eventually that person, right, is going to build their own thing. They're going to build their own business. They're going to be more dependent, more self-sufficient, and that goes against certain elements in the capitalist system that requires the underclass to be there, right? And so why not create an underclass by taking away these skills from our kids, right? And in marginalized communities, it affects them the worst and keeps them on the bottom even longer, right? So this is the problem here. This is what I'm attacking. This is what this channel is all about. And this needs to change. So I hope you guys are getting my drift there, okay? All right, so a kid who learns to frame a wall, to run conduit, or plumb a bathroom carries that knowledge forever. It compounds. They teach their children, they hire from their community, and they build things that last. I don't know if you guys understand how rewarding it is to be able to hire somebody to give them an opportunity to feed their family, especially if they're from your community and you know that they're suffering or looking for work, because a lot of times they have to go out into a world that rejects them. And you're able, by you having certain skills and you creating opportunities for yourself, you're able to reach back down into your community and pull someone up by giving them a job, giving them opportunities, giving them encouragement, and they get to see somebody that represents them as well, right? It's not just about getting a job. It's about seeing that psychic effect of seeing somebody that represents you, looks like you, or whatever, and that so they can build they can do the same for someone else, right? So that's the invisible rewards of building your own community by learning skills that can help you do that, so you can help others. So it restores the dignity and confidence that's been stripped from your community, right? I can talk about my community all day, and look at some of the individuals that I see walking around that have that the confidence is just not there. They're just like, lost. And it's a shame, right? It's a shame because nobody really cares, right? It's like a dog eat dog world out here. So my goal, at least while I'm here on this planet, is to do something about it in my own way. And I'm not Mr. Perfect, but at least I'm trying to do that in my own way. Like I said, through this goal that I have, okay, and education and innovation. By the way, okay, we got to be innovators, right? Educators and innovators. All right. So so when a young person has dignity and confidence restored, that creates a shift in them. Okay, it creates a shift in them where they say, oh well, if I could do this, I can do a lot of things, right? Don't underestimate what you can do, by the way, guys. I remember a few years back, and I'm not a licensed mechanic or anything, but I was driving a vehicle and it got stalled, right? But I was near a automotive repair shop, and I was saying, okay, I'll have them repaired, but I didn't have enough money for them to do that, right? But I had enough money to buy the part, okay? And it was a starter. The starter had gone bad. Never installed a starter at all, or anything like that. But those times when you just like say, F it, I'm gonna do it anyway, and you just cast away all doubt and you do. You just say, okay, I'm going to do it. So I ended up buying the starter, right? And I said, I'm put it in myself. And I got up under that thing and I put it in myself. Thing cranked it up and I was gone, man. And I said to myself, man, I never installed a starter, but I did it. I did it with no hesitation. Why? Because I had to do it, right? I was forced to do it. I didn't, and that's sometimes when you're forced to do something because you lack resources. You're forced to be more self-sufficient. That's when the magic happens. Okay, that's when the magic happens, because now you got to go deep into yourself and cast aside all doubt and fear, or and once you cast that out and you do it, maybe it won't work the first time, but the fact that you did it, right? The fact that you did it will change your psychology. You understand? And that's what I'm talking about. Okay. So that's why I want to teach a million kids, how to use tools. They probably, some of these kids don't even know what a drill is. They don't know what unfortunately, they don't know what a lot of tools are. Common tools as well. Or it's like, man, you don't know what that is? Because they never had anybody teach them, right? So yeah, that's what I'm talking about here. So if 1 million kids learn trades, guys, just a fraction of them, right? They may go into or become professionals, okay? And even if that happens, right, just a fraction of the million kids that I want to teach, that's going to address so many problems in society. That's gonna make a shift, okay? Because you want to make shifts, guys. You want to make big shifts. You don't want the little small shifts, right? When you have a goal, yes, you have to have your little small goals along the way, right, to keep you going. But you also have to have that large goal that encompasses all those small goals that you have as well, right? And you want to make meaningful shifts in society, okay? So even if a fraction of them become tradesmen, right, that's gonna help even this country, right, in all the chaos that's going on here, right? You got a skilled trade shortage. I talk about that all the time, right? That's going to really shift that. That's going to shift that. Okay. And in marginalized communities, it's going to shift it even more, I think, right? Especially if I'm focusing in that area. That's going to open up a lot of doors, right? And the goal is to raise the socioeconomic position of individuals in my community. Okay. Now, my lessons are welcome to everybody, right? Everybody watches my channel, obviously. But if I really want to do a good work, I need to focus on those that have less or encounter more obstacles, I should say. Okay. And if you're one of those people that says, okay, what are you talking about? Everybody has a chance here. You're not the only ones. Well, anyway, that's such a tiring conversation to have. So I choose to ignore that. Some people are just ignorant and they don't understand the social dynamics and the history of this country and why there is a socioeconomic ladder. So I just, if you don't understand, then you just don't. Okay. I'm not going to waste my time trying to explain that to you. There's books out there. There's the internet. There's Google that can explain to you what is a marginalized community in the first place. Okay. All right. So that same skills trade shortage I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm sitting by a window, guys. Like I said, I got changes. That same skilled trade shortage, guys, that's going to lower the cost that I'm working to remedy, right? That's gonna lower the cost for everybody, right? Because right now it's driving up costs, right? And so to create opportunity for people to go into these fields just by giving them the knowledge that I'm going to give them, right? It's going to help. It's going to help everybody, right? Not just our community, not just marginalized communities, but it's going to help everybody. Okay. It's also going to create business owners, not just workers. I had the opportunity to be on a TikTok live, and the group, what was the discussion? I forget the topic of the discussion. And but I was essentially attacked by one of the individuals, and it wasn't like they were trying to tear down my character, but I was promoting the trades, right? And I wasn't the only one promoting it, but I was promoting the trades. I was promoting trucking. I was promoting kids learning how to use tools and stuff like that. And this other person did not like the fact that I was doing that, because they said, okay, our community, we don't need more laborers. We don't need people. We need tech people. We need people that are in the upper echelons of the workforce. And, I don't disagree with that. I'm totally for going to get a degree that's going to give you a certificate or a skill or a trade in the tech world. I'm all for that, right? I'm all for that. And so, but it kind of highlighted their ignorance as to what the skilled trades has evolved to today. The skilled trades is very tech heavy, if you think about it, right? I mean, any of these trades, electrical, plumbing, even masonry, that I talked about 3D printing, how they're 3D printing houses right now, right? So today's tradesman or today's skilled tradesperson has to be familiar with this high-tech equipment that's being used today in their fields. I'm talking about in many fields. So to say that it's just labor intensive is just it's just showing that you don't study, that you're just looking at an industry, looking at a field, and automatically assuming that it's like it was back in the 1920s or 1950s. No. Think about it. Tools are a form of technology, and they evolve with technology over time, just like anything else. Okay. And you still need infrastructure built for those high-tech jobs to exist, right? Whether it's data centers, whether it's, cell towers, whether it's whatever, fiber optic cables and all that. Guess what? Who's gonna do all that type of work, right? Who's gonna install that? Who's gonna manage that? Who's gonna be the project managers on the construction sites? So the fact that you think people they have shovels in their hands and they got sledgehammers and that's all they do all day, is ridiculous, right? Even the guy operating the crane, the heavy, the heavy equipment, that person has to know how to operate that heavy equipment. And I'm sure a lot of that equipment probably has some AI driven or AI elements in those already in the more modern heavy equipment that they're coming out. So yeah. So when I talk about the trades and learn how to use tools, I'm talking about learning how to use some high tech stuff. I remember going to a welding show, right? A welding trade show, and they got robot welders. They have. I did a video about it, guys. You could just check my catalog. I've done a video on this. You have where they can teach you how to weld virtually, right? You just put on the goggles and it replicates an actual layout, and you just grab something and you can actually learn how to weld. Keep your angle right. It self-corrects you. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's so there's tech. Tech is all up in the trades, right? It's all up in it. Okay, guys. So anyway, all right. So it creates business owners, right? When you teach kids how to use tools, how to use trade, about the trades, self-sufficiency, guys, is going to be what we need to focus on. Okay. Yeah, it's good to get jobs and stuff like that, but sometimes when you're a marginalized community, you can't depend on the broader society who really is not interested in your growth to sustain your community. They will sustain your community. They'll give you enough to eat and come to work the next day. They'll pay you enough for that. All right. But they're not going to pay you enough to get out of their system. They would be an idiot to do that. You have to do that yourself. That's one thing they cannot stop, is you extricating yourself from their system and building your own business or own economy or whatever, trading amongst yourselves, circulating the dollar amongst yourselves. That's one thing they can't do. Okay. But the majority of us out in the world, where, that paycheck is so addictive, and it makes you feel comfortable that it puts you to sleep. And now that, you got a nice job, right? But if you're thinking more along the lines of where's your community right now in terms of socioeconomic station, right? If you're just thinking about yourself, yeah, okay, yeah, I got a good job, cool. You go ahead and get it, man. I got mines, and that's the problem right there. A lot of us, we got ours, and we're not thinking about the next man. And then we wonder why our community is not respected, because it doesn't have that cohesiveness, or that it doesn't have in terms of, okay, how are we doing together? How is our community doing? We complain a lot, right? But what are we starting, right? And I know I talk about all the time, all of what has happened to our community over time in this country, right? Historically, it's been attacked, it's been destroyed. Every time we build something, it's been attacked and destroyed, right? But that doesn't mean we have to give up, right? That's what they want us to do, and that's what we shouldn't do. Okay, we got to keep going and keep building. Okay, so by starting teaching kids about the trades, we're given the opportunity to start their own business, and there are other elements involved as well. Take away that every man for himself. Hire your own people, right? And yeah, there's the complaints about, well, we don't want to work and all. That's a bunch of, yeah, there are certain people that exhibit those qualities of negative qualities of not wanting to work and stuff like that. But that's, for the most part, we do want to work. We do want to work, okay? But we don't have enough of us to hire us. Because if we depend on others to hire us, the world hasn't evolved to the point where they look at us in any positive light, right? They have their own prejudices and biases. So I'm all, if I'm going to look for something, man, I'm going to look for it for my people, to be honest with you, man. Because if somebody doesn't hire me, then I know it's not based on what I look like. You understand? But when you go to these other, come on now. We know what kind of world we're living in. Let's not play dumb here. Okay. All right. Now, I talked about this last time. Teaching kids, teaching them, it's $1 million, whether it's 2 million, whatever goal you got, or it's just if it's just you and your kids, or just you. What's that? I talked about AI displacement. What's going on with AI in one of my last lives, and how it's just running rampant through the workforce today, and how it's going to displace a lot of people, right? And the twist to it is it's displacing a lot of people on the upper, like I said, the upper echelons of the workforce, corporate and all that stuff. They're getting displaced because if you're sitting behind a desk typing on a computer, you're gonna be, AI is gonna take that over, right? In no time. But what it's not gonna take over, what it's not gonna displace as quickly is people that know how to use their hands and heads. Okay. And so if we teach our kids to learn how to use their hands, then we're actually safeguarding them from a uncertain future when it comes to all these technological advances as far as automation and AI and stuff like that, right? So if we really care about our kids, right, we're not going to say, hey man, go be a lawyer, and then that kid goes to law school and all that, undergrad, and then goes to law school, and then they get out and they find out that their paralegal position is no longer available because AI is doing it much quicker and faster. Hey, they might even be trying cases in an actual courtroom with AI lawyers. You ever think of that? Sounds far-fetched, but you never know these days. Okay. Land and ownership, okay? A community that has people who can build things, okay, and land to build on is a community that can house itself. It says right now the cost of construction is one of the biggest barriers to affordable housing. If the people who need housing are also the people who can build it, that equation changes dramatically. Okay. Sweat equity, building your own home or community space with your own labor, has historically been one of the most powerful wealth building tools available to people without capital. You are essentially turning human potential directly into physical assets. Right now, most of us say, if we want to go buy a home, we got to qualify for a loan. We got to do this and that, not to mention all the barriers marginalized people have to deal with when you're dealing with institutions that are historically, biased against certain individuals, certain groups of people when it comes to getting loans, either whether it's for a property, whether it's for a business. I mean, if you're not, walk a mile in the shoes, right? Walk a mile in the shoes of certain communities and see how hard it is, or how hard they make it for them to get a loan. It's ridiculous. Stuff, even to this day, right? So teach it when kids, right, individuals, young adults, they know how to build, they know how to use tools. They don't have to depend on that. All they need to do is get the raw materials, right? Which is probably, if they pool their money, if you have the mindset of pooling your money together and saying, okay, we're going to buy the raw materials to go build this house over here. Our whole community is going to pitch in to this pot, and we're going to go buy that plot of land over there. Okay, get the land first, and then we're going to pitch in to go build maybe four or five homes on it, or whatever you need to build on it. Okay, that way you can, you because of that unity, right, and that cohesiveness that you have amongst your own people, then you can build your own stuff, right? You don't have to depend on a bank, right, that's going to gatekeep capital from your community, right? We should be tired of that at this point. We have enough money circulating in our community. If it didn't go to Gucci bags, if it didn't go to trips all over, trying to impress people, right? If it didn't go there, we have enough capital circulating in our community. Unfortunately, it doesn't circulate long enough to do these basic things. Okay, guys? But are we doing it? Everybody needs to ask themselves, okay, how am I doing that? What am I doing to help the situation? Okay. So right now, guys, they're having these global conflicts going on. Okay. And I said earlier on live, how does these global conflicts tie into what I'm talking about right now? Well, they got a war right now, what is it? A war right now in Iran. They got a war in Ukraine and Russia. They got wars in the Congo. Don't forget the Congo. They got wars going on there too, right? They got war in the South China Seas, all these resource-rich places, right? Notice, wars are usually fought over resources, right? Whether the resource is people, whether the resource is the Civil War. Remember that? That was fought over one of the most valuable resources, which was the black man and the black woman, right? Slave labor, right? Right. So a lot of stuff is not foreign. It happened on your own soil. Okay. But yeah, usually fought over resources, whether it's minerals, whether it's people, whether it's whatever. Okay. And that's what's going on right now. To be honest with you, that's what, if you just sum it all up, that's what's happening. Okay. So, okay, it says the global economy is being restructured. Okay. The conflicts happening right now are accelerating a reorganization of global supply chains, energy systems, and trade relationships that will reshape which communities thrive and which ones get left further behind, guys. That's what I'm talking about, okay? First of all, my community's been left behind from the jump. It's been, I wouldn't even say left behind. It was never on an equal footing in this country, all right? But with wars on these conflicts, that's gonna determine. I'm talking about the current conflicts, right? That's gonna determine if we're gonna go further behind or not. And a lot of that has to do with how we adapt, because we can sit up there and say that's their problem, that's not our problem, that's their problem. Well, I think that's a kind of a short-sighted view of looking at what's going on, because what happens over there definitely affects you over here. Just look at the gas prices, right? Or when these things happen, right? It affects not just gas, it affects the whole economy, right? Because of inflation, right? Because if oil becomes more expensive because somebody's cutting off the supply, that's going to have reverberating effects worldwide, because you got ships that need fuel to bring you your products. You got cars that need fuel. So they're going to pass all of those costs onto you, right? The consumer, me and you, we're going to have to deal with that. So to say, oh, that's just a war over there, that's their war. No, it's not just their war. We live in a global connected economy, and whether we like it or not, we're affected by it. And if you're in a community where your resources are scarce in terms of finances, guess what? The more burden that you have, it could mean you being homeless or not, right? All right. Okay, so when energy prices strike, utility costs hit low income communities the hardest. When military spending crowds out domestic investment, right? In other words, they're spending more in defense than here domestically on other things. The social programs, the infrastructure investments that marginalized communities depend on are the first things to be cut. And God, look who's in office now. Look how many programs that they cut for African American communities or other marginalized communities. Look at slashed. Okay, even before this current war happened, they were slashing stuff. They were getting ready, right? They were getting ready, putting all that money into the defense coffers for when they go around the world to do what they do. Okay, so they're playing chess. They're thinking like 3 or 4 steps ahead, right? And defense and the military has always been like the #1 priority, because without a strong military, or the strongest military in the world, you can't go around the world kicking everybody's you know what, right? You just be all talk. So in order for them to do what they do, right, and your little programs, right, that you have for that they don't care about that. Okay, so critical minerals and the trades connection, the materials that tradespeople work with every day, whether it's copper wire, steel pipe, lumber, all that's tied to global conflict. Okay, what's that other material? I think what was that? I can't think of it right now. But anyway, the Congo, right? I know a lot of you guys don't think about the Congo because it's not taught about. Every other massacre on the world is talked about more than the Congo, right? And we know why that is. But the Congo holds more than 70% of the world's cobalt. Okay, and that cobalt is what you put in batteries and electronics. It's a, I mean, it's essential. Okay, it's essential, and it's been a conflict over that in the Congo forever. Okay, and a lot of that has to do with the competition for example, copper. Okay, that comes from a region that's very politically unstable. When you teach a kid to wire a house, you're connecting them to a global material supply chain that itself is a site of geopolitical struggle. Okay, so there's so many connections to people suffering when it comes to these resources that we use. It's ridiculous. Okay, and in the so-called first world, they don't teach you about that. They cut that. They don't want to teach you. Hey, listen, this thing that we put in our iPhones, that we put in our devices, in our electronics, it's coming from a war-torn country where kids are getting their limbs cut off. All right, if they don't work hard enough, or a 70-year-old is in a mine trying to dig up this stuff, and they die that day because of exhaustion. They don't teach about all that, right? All you do is you look at your phone, you look at TikTok or YouTube and say, oh, look at that. Yeah, oh, that's funny, not knowing that this was built on blood and suffering and death. Okay. So a lot of, the links, when you link stuff, when you study this stuff and you link, you highlight all the connections there. It's it's a very sobering realization as to the so-called luxuries that we enjoy today in the so-called Western world. Okay. All right. So young men without purpose and economic hope are recruited. So this is an uncomfortable but important truth. So if you in America, you have a lot of young men that don't have hope, thinking that don't think that they're going to live till the age of 25 or even younger because of the environment they've grown up in. So what's that going to do? They're going to become fodder for these global conflicts. They're going to be recruited into these armed forces to go fight a war that was never theirs anyway, because they're expendable, right? They're expendable anyway. That's how they look. That's how they're looked at. Let's go into the hood and set up our our marketing materials and tell them, hey, come in, man. You get free. You get college. What's that? The GI Bill and all this stuff and everything. And don't get me wrong. You can go into the military and do very well for yourself. But at the end of the day, they prey on the marginalized communities, the young men in the marginalized communities, because it's a form of, cleansing. I want to say ethnic cleansing. That's kind of, some people may think that's far out, but think about it. I mean, when African Americans fought in the wars of this country, they came back to a country that hated them, still hates them, right? How sick, I mean, very sickening to think about. So that tells you how much that you're valued, right? And that you should really think twice about going into these institutions as a person in a marginalized community. My whole thing is to teach people how to teach people about tools, teach these youngsters about the trades and the opportunities there, instead of saying, go into the military, this, that, and the other. I myself was in the military. Okay. I had my own unique experience there that so I can talk from personal experience. Okay. And I think there's a lot more better opportunities than going into the military, to be honest with you. Yes, you can benefit from a lot of the perks that you would have if you join, and if you stay in there and you don't have to go into a war and you make it out, great. You know what I'm saying? But that shouldn't be our first resort, right? that, like I said, it was placed there. You need a defense, right? You need a military, right? But they recruit heavily in communities that are already at risk, right? And that's, to me, that's in the long run, it's not the way that my community should be going. Okay, we just need to pool together our intellectual capital, right? Whether that's skilled trades, or whether you're a college educated or not. So it comes down to unity, right? Instead of bickering, arguing, and fighting about dumb stuff on the internet all day, we should be coming together like other communities do, strengthening that family structure, so we can be on in the 50 years from now, 100 years from now, we could be on another playing field. Yes, we're going to have to deal with the enemies of our people, right? That's just what it is. But if we're more cohesive in our social interactions and relations, then we stand a better chance. All right, so I'm talking a lot here, guys. Let's see. Okay, what's that? Let's see here. All right, guys, I'm gonna end with this one. Technology transfer and power. The nations winning in the current global conflicts are those that control the most advanced technology, AI, robotics, precision manufacturing, and cyber capability. The communities within those nations that remain technologically excluded fall further and further behind, not just economically, but in terms of political power and self-determination. Building technical capacity in marginalized communities, including the trades. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Building technical capacity in marginalized communities, including the trades. In other words, the trades is just as technologically on the same level as all these other fields, right? Like I said, without the trades, you building the infrastructure upon which all that stuff rests, AI, robotics, precision manufacturing, cyber, then you wouldn't have that. Okay, so including the trades, which are increasingly technologically integrated, okay, and AI literacy is part of closing the gap before it becomes unbridgeable. Okay, once again, guys, all the stuff I'm talking about should be coupled with teaching the community about financial literacy. Very important. Okay, that's a whole other topic, because you can have a skill, you can make a lot of money, but if you're not financially literate, then all that money is going to go back to somebody else. It's going to flow out of your community and go back to somebody else, and you're going to stay stuck on a certain level. So everything I talk about has to be coupled with financial literacy. This is not a financial channel, so won't dive too deep into that. But you should always be studying something having to do with financial literacy when it comes to any skill or any income generated skill that you have. Okay, so let me see here. All right, looking at the chat here. Hey, Gibsonites, that's the key. If we create our own machine like Black Wall Street again, this time we can protect it. Yeah, absolutely. I want to kind of address what Gibsonite just said. Very correct. I can talk all day long about building, about trades, about teaching 1 million kids and all that stuff. But you got to know how to protect what you build, right? I mean, you go to any of these, like I can't just walk up to NASA, space exploration companies, and just walk in and just no, they have, you gotta have clearances, right? In other words, they defend. I can't just walk up to the White House and just go inside. Yeah, they built these things, but they all, you have to build defense mechanisms as well to defend what you build. Otherwise, somebody can just come in and ransack it. Yeah, you know what I mean? So you got to be able to defend what you build. it's like if you got a family, right? You got to be able to defend your family, right? Nobody's going to argue about that. You built a family, you created a family, and you can't defend your family. I mean, what's the point? I mean, anyway? So, yeah, that's a very good point, Gizmo Knight. Claudie Dottie, hey Claudie Dottie, 43. Thank you for sharing such great knowledge with us. Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for. You know, to spread as much knowledge as I can to the community, because, you know, hey, look, we only have a certain amount of time on this planet. You don't want to be tiptoeing around these days about what really needs to be done, especially if you have a platform. Don't be afraid to tell the truth out here, guys. You know what I mean? You want to be able to look back and say, listen, I addressed this situation. And I know a lot of people have platforms and they don't want to risk their maybe business opportunities or whatever. But look, you know, if you're not on what I'm talking about, or at least can understand it, then it's fine. I'll be okay. You know, but I'm trying to reach millions of people there. I'm trying to reach millions of kids that need this kind of information. You know, I'm trying to change the world here. I'm trying to make a shift in my own way, guys. So I think all of us should be doing that. If we all did that, then the shift's going to happen much quicker than we realize, right? Instead of out here being step and fetch it and afraid to talk about what needs to be talked about. These people at the end of the day don't care anyway about you anyway, right? They don't care about you like that. So why are you afraid to speak the truth, speak truth to power? Anyway, guys, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Thanks. Look out for the next video on Thursday. I'm gonna do a tour. I think I did a tour of Home Depot, the other video, the last one. So I did one of Lowe's on this next one coming up. See what kind of tool deals they have. Anyway, guys, stay up, keep your head up, and you'll be okay. Take care.